All right, Caleb, this will be coming down in 3, 2. Welcome back, SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas. We're joined by the one, the only, the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. Always love to visit with this gentleman. And did you ever think this would actually happen, Commissioner, that Texas and Oklahoma are actually going to be here?
Yeah, I did, as of about 3 years ago. It's just been a long runway to access this point in our history and in the history of both programs and college sports.
Is there a sense of pride for your office to actually get this done? Because like you said, it's been 3 years. When it came out, it seemed shocking.
Yes, and I'll start with myself, having lived in the Dallas area and having had conversations dating back to probably 2017 about we should put our Media Days event here in Dallas because of the impact we already had, to now do it at 16 and to do it in 2024. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of preparation, and we're not at the finish line of the event as we record this, but I think it's been the right thing, validates our decision making, and it is rewarding to experience.
These are two big-time teams. I don't need to tell you that. And I'm not knocking the other teams that have been brought into the SEC, but the name recognition, the prestige, how significant do you think that is of bringing in Oklahoma and Texas?
If you look back at our expansions, back to Arkansas and South Carolina moving, that was, in a way, cataclysmic. Some of that had happened around us. The Texas A&M move was, in a way, preset by the rumblings back in 2010. And then Missouri followed, and that was important, particularly as you saw what happened. And I think what you've seen relative to our expansion efforts is we've been on the leading edge, and we certainly were here. And I do think that the scope of this move is one that's historic. In fact, the media around can comment better than I can on how significant they view this move. But I think it's truly an impactful change.
I'm going to change gears. Sorry, no pun intended, but I do want to switch topics. And that is, you had Kirby Smart talk about Georgia coach, about how there would be fines for players that have potential off-field issue. Just in general, let me throw that at you and tell me what you think.
I think Kirby really has to speak to that. As I understand his answer, it was about the collective that has agreements with student athletes, essentially having some kind of conduct clause that gives them that freedom. I think that's the world we probably enter, but that's not some action imposed by me at this time.
Would that be good for the sport if it was widespread?
We need to eliminate a behavior that does not meet either societal or university or team expectations. And so the tools to do that, one can make their decisions around. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think that's a neutral piece at this point, but it's certainly novel relative to what others have described as accountability measures. I think we heard one last week in a different setting that was basically pretty low accountability.
Which one are you referring to there? Can you give me any insight
no,
on that?
I love to be evasive.
I like that. As far as off-field issues, I see players that have a lot more money now, obviously with the NIL. And I wasn't the smartest 19-year-old. How concerned are you that suddenly there's a lot more disposable income to go around?
There are several concerns. One is the maturity needed to handle that amount of income and to use it wisely. So people will talk about generational wealth. Well, it's not generational wealth if it goes away quickly. And so how it's managed is something that we're in the educational process on each of our campuses, but people have to listen. It's not just enough to share the information on how to develop a financial plan, how to develop a financial management strategy. It is pretty interesting to talk to student athletes who are engaged actively, but we need that to be universal. The second is, at some point, the playing career ends. And statistically, most of the individuals involved in college athletics will not be professional athletes, which means you have to step into your career, into the job role. And that entry-level experience may be at a very different salary than somebody's been accustomed to because of these large name and likeness payments. I actually think that's a long-term threat that has to be understood. And then the third is, when I was 19, like you, I could get distracted and confused by the amount of money in my pocket if it were that large relative to my education. I worked on construction jobs. My parents were clear that, hey, you're going to make great money, but don't think that's your future. And that was small compared to the numbers I see now, but I think still is representative of the distractions that can pull people from lifelong preparation to short-term, because of short-term decision-making, that then have long-term impacts.
I have a theory, and I can't think of anybody better to throw it at than you. I think there are less players, maybe the Georgia situation was standing. I think there are less players getting in trouble because I think that they are less resentful now that they're getting NIL pay. I think they treat it oftentimes, not all the time, I'm making a blanket statement, but I think they treat it like a job more so than something that maybe they were taken advantage of, at least in the way they viewed it.
Okay, that's a hypothesis. I could hypothesize that some recognize there's a much higher level of scrutiny in their lives, and they're educated on that. So there's probably several factors that alter behavior, but that doesn't mean that everyone's going to meet expectations, and that relates to oversight and the right kind of accountability.
Your thoughts on scheduling, what you want to do after the season? And
the season allows us to do a few things. One, we've done a lot of preparation on decision making for 26 and beyond. We made decisions to stay at 8 games for 24 and 25 to basically mirror the schedules for those 2 seasons. That way everybody gets to see teams, opponents on an equitable basis, home and away within their grouping. We're going to go through a season of a single division 16-team league. That will be a learning experience. Hopefully it validates our decision making to this point. And then we go into a 12-team playoff where we want to understand the selection process. We want to make sure that the criteria that's been established is consistent with the way teams are evaluated. I think that can be really difficult comparing maybe a 9-3 team to an 11-1 team. That 9-3 team having played an incredibly tough schedule. Then that puts us to probably first quarter of 2025 to really get into the decision making for 26 and beyond.
Commissioner, certainly appreciate it. I remember when the Texas and Oklahoma thing actually happened. I thought this is crazy, and kudos to your entire department for getting that done. I think everybody's excited about it.
Yeah, it's our future. It's great to be here in Dallas to bring many who've been part of SEC Media Days for years and years into a new location with our new membership and a really exciting future. So thank you for the conversation.
He is the one, the only Commissioner Greg Sankey. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
That was Greg Sankey speaking with Dave Hooker at SEC Media Days. Once again, that interview brought to you by Work Trucks. Said a lot of interesting things, but as you guys know, Greg Sankey is the ultimate politician, so you're just not going to get a lot from him. The guy, is the king of what we say Josh Heupel is. He says it for the SEC. He says a lot without saying anything. It can kind of drive you crazy at times, but that's always been his thing.